The mirror in her eyes, what you must never forget about a woman. There's a certain silence in a woman's gaze that tells you more than her words ever could. Not coldness, not distance, but something far more dangerous. Disconnection. You didn't mean to cause it. You didn't notice when it started. You may not even know it's happening. But it begins with one of the 7 mistakes that Jung, if he were alive today, would warn every man to avoid. Because to hurt a woman's body is obvious. To hurt her soul, that happens quietly, in shadow, in repetition, in what you didn't say, in what you refused to see. Carl Jung saw clearly, the feminine is not weak. It is mysterious, symbolic, connected to the unconscious. When you ignore her inner world, you aren't just missing who she is, you are missing who you are becoming. This story isn't about control. It's about reverence, understanding, discernment, and the 7 mistakes men keep making, not out of cruelty, but out of blindness. And blindness is no longer an excuse. Not if you want to walk beside a woman and not just possess her. Let's begin with the first. Don't make her your moral project. You meet her. She's wild. She's spontaneous. She lights something up in you that has been asleep for years. But soon, that very wildness begins to scare you. She says what she feels. She changes her mind. She needs space one day, closeness the next. And without noticing, you begin trying to fix her, to shape her, to help her become more calm, more predictable, more like the image you had in your mind of what a good woman should be. You say it gently at first. Maybe you should think before you speak. You'd be happier if you just settled down a little. I'm only trying to help. But Jung would warn you, you are not shaping her, you are silencing her archetype. Because that untamed energy you're trying to reduce is not a flaw. It's a force. It is the anima, the feminine presence that lives in every man's unconscious. And when she shows up in real life through a woman, she's meant to awaken you, not conform to your ego's plan. The woman is not here to fit into your world. She is here to reflect the parts of you you've never dared to face. And when you start moralizing her, judging her, trying to improve her, you're not elevating her, you are escaping yourself. Because what you really fear isn't her intensity. It's your inability to meet it without collapsing. So you try to shut it down, tame it, sanitize it, and in doing so, you lose something sacred. Her trust, her instinct, her mystery. Jung understood. The feminine is not meant to be understood first, but held, witnessed, respected. If you force her into your spiritual box, she may stay. But it won't be her who stays. It'll be a version of her you created. And one day, you'll look at her and wonder where the fire went. It didn't go anywhere. You extinguished it. So if you meet a woman whose soul speaks in symbols, whose laughter breaks the silence, whose moods move with the moon, don't treat her like a child who needs discipline. Treat her like a soul with her own rhythm. One you were never meant to control. Only learn to move with if you're willing. Never compete with her emotion. The depth you refuse will one day leave you. A woman doesn't cry to win. She doesn't raise her voice to overpower. She doesn't fall silent to punish. She feels. And when you, as a man, treat her emotion as something to defeat, you are not being strong. You are revealing your fragility. Carl Jung saw emotion not as noise, but as truth the ego cannot yet explain. When a woman speaks with feeling, she is not trying to control you. She is trying to be seen. But many men without meaning to respond to this by stepping into a silent war. She says, I feel alone. He replies, that's not fair. I do everything for you. She says, something's off between us. He replies, you're being too sensitive again. And so begins the battle, not of ideas, but of value. A man raised to fear emotion will always treat it like an attack, because he has no map for how to enter her world without losing himself. So he rationalizes, explains, defends, corrects, not because he's cruel, but because he thinks logic will save them both. But Jung would say, what you cannot feel, you cannot transform. A woman's emotion is not the problem. Your resistance to it is. Because every time you compete with her feeling, you're not teaching her to be reasonable. You're teaching her that she's alone. And she will stop speaking. Not because she has nothing to say, but because she's learned that her internal world is unwelcome in your presence. And the tragedy is, this was never about being right. It was about being safe. You thought she was trying to win, but all she wanted was to know that her truth wasn't too heavy for your hands. Jung would tell you, emotion is the voice of the unconscious. It is meaning trying to rise. And when a woman trusts you enough to bring you into her emotional depth, she is not burdening you. She is offering you a place at the altar, a place where rawness lives, a place where transformation begins. Because when you meet a woman's emotion with silence, with breath, with presence, you don't just hold her. You meet a part of yourself you were taught to ignore. That's what most men miss. Her feelings aren't obstacles. They're invitations. To listen, to stay, to feel what she feels, not to fix it, but to understand how life moves through her. So never compete with her emotion. Never treat her tears like manipulation. Never respond to her pain as if it's a flaw in her system. Because the moment you do, you stop being a partner and become a wall. And no woman can build a future on a wall that refuses to move. Don't try to own her soul. The feminine was never yours to control. She shows you her spirit, not all at once, not in words, in glimpses, in the way she changes when no one's watching, in the feeling that being with her is like walking into a temple, where nothing is forced, but everything is alive. And slowly, something ancient stirs in you. You want her, not just her body, not even her love. You want her to be yours. This is where it begins. And this is where Jung would stop you. Because the feminine is not a possession. It is a presence. It cannot be caged without turning cold. It cannot be forced without becoming quiet. Jung saw the soul as a living field. The feminine, in its deepest archetypal form, is not a person. It is the gateway between the conscious and unconscious. It's mystery, symbol, instinct, chaos and creation. And when you fall in love with a woman, you aren't just falling in love with her face, her voice, her story. You are falling in love with the part of her that you do not understand. That's what draws you in. That's what keeps you awake at night. But if you are not strong, if you are not clear within yourself, that mystery begins to threaten you. You mistake her independence for distance, her creativity for disloyalty, her silence for withholding. And so you begin to tame her, in subtle ways, with small comments, with expectations, with rules she never agreed to. Not because you don't love her, but because you want to keep her. But you cannot keep what is not meant to be owned. Jung would call this the ego's mistake, to confuse union with domination. You think, if she really loved me, she'd stay closer. She wouldn't need so much space. She'd choose me over her art, her solitude, her freedom. But that's not love. That's control wearing the mask of intimacy. And when you try to possess her soul, you no longer love her. You love the version of her that doesn't scare you. But here's the truth. She was never meant to make you feel safe. She was meant to make you feel awake. The feminine is not here to be tamed. She is here to reveal the parts of you that still cling to power because they fear vulnerability. And yes, her soul will dance with yours, but only if you give it room. Only if you can stand in your own presence without needing to diminish hers. Because the more you try to hold her in your hand, the more she will vanish between your fingers. She doesn't want your control. She wants your clarity, your stillness, your rootedness. She wants to trust that her freedom doesn't frighten you, that her fire doesn't make you flinch, that her mystery doesn't make you reach for a cage. So don't try to own her. Don't become the man who can only love a woman when she's been made small enough to fit inside his comfort zone. Because that version of love is not worthy of her. And somewhere deep inside, you already know it. Don't mistake her nurturing for obligation. What she gives is not owed. She sees you tired, she softens. She sees you doubting, she speaks life into your ambition. You fall apart, she holds you, as if holding you is instinct. This is one of the most dangerous moments in a man's journey, when he begins to believe he is entitled to her care. Not because he asks, because she gives, and keeps giving. Carl Jung believed that the feminine, in its archetypal form, carries the principle of the nurturer, the healer, the inner mother. Not biologically, but symbolically. She tends to the soul. She listens beneath your words. She knows when something is wrong even before you've admitted it to yourself. And so she gives, emotionally, energetically, spiritually. Not out of duty, but because her nature moves that way. But here is where many men fall asleep. Instead of receiving her care with reverence, they begin to expect it. They confuse her warmth for responsibility, her tenderness for a promise, her willingness to hold them for an agreement that she always will. And over time, what was once awe becomes routine. What once felt like grace becomes a right. This is the fourth mistake, mistaking what is sacred for what is yours. Jung would call this a regression, a man returning to the mother archetype not for integration, but for comfort. He stops being her partner. He becomes her dependent. He says, "You're supposed to understand me. You're supposed to be patient. You're supposed to forgive. But supposed to according to who? When did her love become your entitlement? You forget, she chose to care for you. She chose to give you access to her softness. She chose to step into your world and become a source of strength. But it is still a choice. And choices, when not respected, become burdens. Every time you take her nurturing for granted, you don't just risk losing her. You risk dulling the very part of her that made you feel alive in the first place. Because when a woman is seen only for what she gives, and not for what she is, something in her dies. She may not say it, but she will feel it. A quiet grief, a slow vanishing of self, until one day you look at her and her eyes don't shine the same way. Not because she stopped loving you, but because you stopped seeing her. Jung would ask you, are you growing in her presence or just surviving on her energy? Because the feminine is not here to carry your soul. She is here to walk beside it. And if you turn her into a source of comfort instead of a mirror of your evolution, you will lose both her and the man you might have become. So when she gives, receive it. Let it humble you. Let it inspire you to give back with presence, not performance. Don't praise her on one hand and take her for granted with the other. That is not love. That is emotional consumption. And the feminine does not serve to be consumed. She serves to awaken, to reveal, to stir you back into truth. Don't ask her to carry your unlived life. Love her, but never hand her the weight of your becoming. You wake up beside her. The morning light touches her skin. Her breath is steady. She's still here. But you're not. Not fully. You feel a weight pressing down on your chest. Not hers, not the relationship, but your own unlived life sitting in the room like a silent third presence. And this is where many men break without knowing it. Not from betrayal, not from abandonment, but from quietly placing the burden of their unfulfilled soul into the arms of a woman who was never meant to carry it. Carl Jung saw this pattern in man after man. The one who never faced himself, who never stepped into the pain of becoming, who never asked what he truly wanted from life, and instead looked to the woman beside him to live it for him. It begins slowly. He stops building. He stops seeking. He stops risking, and starts watching her. She becomes his purpose, his light, his identity. He says he loves her, and he means it. But deep underneath that love is a silent transaction. You carry the fire I have not claimed in myself. You live the passion I have forgotten. You be the dream I was too afraid to chase. And now, without a word, he makes her responsible for his vitality. She senses it. At first, she may even try to hold it. She'll pour more into the relationship, offer more affection, more reassurance, more of herself. But she will also begin to vanish. Not because she wants to, but because no woman can survive carrying a man's soul in addition to her own. And here's the tragedy, he will not see it. He will feel the distance and call it betrayal. He will feel her exhaustion and label it coldness. He will feel her need for space and name it selfishness. But what he's really feeling is the cost of not having lived his own life. And Jung would say, you cannot outsource your becoming. You must carry it yourself. When a man fails to live in alignment with his deeper self, when he silences the voice that says, there's more, when he turns away from the difficult path of growth, he begins to look for shortcuts, substitutes, mirrors, and often that mirror is her. He praises her radiance, but secretly resents it. He encourages her success, but feels it shrinking him. He wants her to shine, but only to the degree that it doesn't make his own shadows too visible. This is not love. It is quiet desperation, and it will destroy them both. Because every time he avoids his calling, he adds invisible weight to the relationship. Every dream he abandons becomes another expectation placed on her. And slowly the dynamic changes. He is no longer the man beside her. He is the man beneath her. Not in power, but in presence. And she will feel it, not as dominance, but as absence. Carl Jung believed that the soul knows when it's being abandoned. And if you betray your soul long enough, you will begin to betray others in ways you never intended. So what does it mean to love her without asking her to carry your unlived life? It means you never hand her your calling and ask her to breathe life into it. It means you wake up each day and take full responsibility for your fire. It means you stop using her affection as a substitute for your own self-respect. She can support you, but she cannot define you. She can love you, but she cannot build you. She can walk beside you, but she cannot carry you up the mountain that is yours alone to climb. A man who is rooted in himself does not need a woman to make him whole. And because of that, he can love her fully, not from need, but from presence. He no longer devours her light. He mirrors it. He protects it. He adds to it. He no longer says, "I need you to complete me." He says, "I want you to walk with me freely as I become more of who I am." And that more than words, more than promises, is what allows love to grow without suffocating. Because now he's not hiding in her. He's standing beside her. And that is the love the feminine respects, a love that is grounded, awakened, and clear. A love that doesn't demand her soul to fill in for yours. What Jung would say if he were sitting with you now. He would not shame you. He would not ask why you lost yourself in her. He would understand. He would say, the feminine is powerful, but she is not responsible for your integration. He would remind you that the anima, the inner feminine, lives within you too, and that when you ignore her, you project her onto every woman you meet. You don't need to lose yourself to love her. You need to become yourself so that when you do love, it's clean, it's deep, and it's free of the weight of your unlived dreams. Final thought, the return to soul. You were never meant to disappear in a relationship. You were never meant to hand her the steering wheel and call it devotion. The woman beside you does not want your surrender. She wants your strength, not to control her, but to meet her. In your truth, in your passion, in your grounded masculinity, in your path walked with eyes open, heart steady, and purpose intact. So take back the unlived parts of yourself. Reclaim the dreams you gave up. Step again toward the work you were called to do. And then love her, not as a savior, not as a mirror, but as a soul. Whole, fierce, and free. What to watch next? If this resonated, if you saw even a glimpse of your story in this truth, then don't leave this here. In our next video, we explore the anima projection, why men fall for the same woman again and again, Carl Jung's inner feminine. Because until you make the unconscious feminine conscious, you'll keep calling it destiny, when it's only your shadow in disguise. Until then, walk your path, carry your fire, and love her, not to fill your silence, but to meet her in hers.